Here, so we're good there. Hot sauce, still got to figure out how to keep them rotated.
Maybe we should do a trial run. I'll stand over here.
That's not too much to organize. I'll do what you want me to do here.
My name is Elise Keaton. I'm an outreach coordinator with the Greenbrier River Watershed Association, and we're here today at a celebration for the Greenbrier River and Peters Mountain, and we're celebrating both these incredible landmarks in southern West Virginia and also our resistance to the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which, if it is built as it's been proposed, will do irreparable harm and damage to these two landmarks and to our communities. It's extremely important to recognize that this pipeline is just a small piece of a much larger picture, and this resistance is just a small battle in a much larger war. And this war is for our land and our people and our communities in West Virginia and across the region. We know from the communities in the northern part of the state the incredible degradation that comes along with natural gas extraction and the infrastructure necessary to extract it and transport it. And for my son and the future generations of West Virginians, we are trying very hard to build a better future for our families, for our communities, and for our state. They're wanting to get a close-up of it. Oh, look at that.
I'm Autumn Crow. I'm the program director for West Virginia Rivers Coalition. I'm an environmental scientist, and I'm also on the board of the Greenbrier River Watershed Association. I got interested in this work because I grew up swimming in the Greenbrier River, and I developed a love for nature, and I wanted to choose a career in that I could protect it. And so also now I'm making sure that there's a clean environment for my future generation, little boy. And I'm concerned about the pipelines going through the Greenbrier River watershed because it's going to impact the water quality, and I don't want there to be impacts to the fisheries or the environment that I grew up cherishing, and I want to make sure that that's there for future generations. The way that the pipeline construction is proposed, they would dig a huge trench through the bed of the Greenbrier River and lay the pipe in, and that would create a lot of sedimentation that would be harmful to fish and other aquatic life, in addition to the water quality that a lot of people depend on for drinking and also recreating. So it's a grave concern that I have, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure that the river is protected.
Oh, there's Paul. He was good.
And Peters Mountain down in Monroe County, which pretty much is the border between Virginia and West Virginia. And if you've never seen Peters Mountain or spent time on it, do that, because it is a spectacular mountain. It's just beautiful. You can actually see it from the mountain where I grew up, on Friesland Mountain. And so it's that big tall mountain in the distance that just stands as a beacon and holds so much beauty. We've had a tremendous amount of success in the past couple years, but I am standing here today convening this gathering and talking to you all with a really heavy heart, because I spent about an hour on the phone last night with one of our allies in Doddridge County, West Virginia. And she called me about some legal questions, and we got to talking about this event and other things, and she reminded me that all of the gas right now that's being produced in Doddridge and Wetzel and Harrison counties is the gas that's intended to go into this proposed pipeline. But that won't be enough to fill the pipeline. With this pipeline comes additional fracking, comes additional extraction, comes additional infrastructure. So while this fight is a big fight for all of us down here, and the resistance to this arm of this pipeline is so important, it is a piece of a much bigger picture that we have to keep in mind. We don't suffer from the extraction industry down here like they do up there. And if you've never been to Doddridge County or Harrison or Wetzel or Marshall or Marion counties, you should go visit there and see the truck traffic, the fumes, the compressor stations, the pipelines, the frac pads. How that gets started is one oil and gas lease down here. How many people in this room own property? How many people own the mineral rights with that property? How many of you have been approached about leasing those minerals? A handful of you have. They're coming. And this pipeline is 1 foot in the door to get them down here. A big part of this event and other events that we're doing are to inform people, to engage people around being aware of that, understanding that an oil and gas lease isn't just a derrick out in the field anymore. You're talking an 11 to 15 acre frac pad and everything that comes with it. And it's important to understand the role that this pipeline plays in that bigger picture. Some of us have ideas for other ways that we can enjoy this space and enjoy this beautiful place and have an economy that's based on things other than natural gas or oil, which is a byproduct of natural gas extraction. So this is a good opportunity to network with your community, talk to folks like Cindy Ellis with the Highlands Conservancy, Bill Price with the Sierra Club, Autumn Bryson with the Rivers Coalition. Those are the first 3 speakers that we're going to hear from today. I want to give you a little bit of an outline. The first thing I want to do, though, so I don't forget, if you want to get an idea of how big this pipeline is and how big the impact will be, if you look behind you, you'll see some caution tape, that yellow caution tape stretched between the trees. The distance between those 2 trees represents the width of the right-of-way that will be necessary to construct this pipeline. And if you look in the middle at the black piece of pipe there, that's supposed to be representative of the size of the pipeline that they want to put in the ground. Hundreds and hundreds of miles across 3 states. So this is a massive, massive project that they've proposed, and that's why we are so protective of the area that they've chosen to put this through, or that they've proposed to put it through. So they want to cross this little bitty river. It's not a little bitty river, but it's not a big river, but they want to put a right-of-way that big across this river that's never been impacted by any construction like that. So think about the magnitude. They want to cross Peters Mountain with this kind of right-of-way and that kind of pipeline. And it's not just one pipeline. Those easements read multiple pipelines with different things in them. So take this opportunity to learn what the magnitude of this project is, why folks here are dedicated to creating the resistance and informing their communities about it, and how you can become involved and become part of what's happening right here in southern West Virginia and across the region. So we're going to have some speakers today, again, from the different organizations that are set up in this room behind us where the food is. Get some food. It's fantastic. I haven't been here since I was a 4-H'er in high school. The food has not changed. It's still really good. And talk to the folks who have these tables set up. Rush Run is going to be with us all afternoon playing their fantastic music, so I'm thrilled to hear that. So use the opportunities to network and be in community with one another as we go through the evening. We're also going to have a 50-50 raffle about an hour before the event wraps up. So where are the raffle tickets? Are they out here? Does somebody have them? Somebody find the raffle tickets and make sure we sell them. And Maury Johnson, the gentleman in this orange vest, will be very informative through the process. So if you need any information, ask Maury.
We also will have some items that later that people go off for auction.
Okay.
We'll make a little auction as well. And there was some Indian corn, which I'll talk about after a while, maybe after the field. Some Indian corn that was grown down here at Pitt Springs that we're going to take down. Okay.
So one of the elements of resistance has been the planting of sacred corn from the Ponca Nation. And so many of our folks have, oh, there's the raffle tickets right there. So be sure and buy a raffle ticket. Stick around, learn more. Again, we're going to have that auction. We're going to have the raffle closing, and then we have music throughout the afternoon. So thank you so much for coming. Big round of applause again for Rush Run and everybody who's made this possible. Enjoy the afternoon. Everyone for coming.
The earth has been parched too many years. Out of love and love, there'll be only our tears. We cut the trees and overgraze the lands, but we get left our burning sand. We need a rain dance. 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 We build our weapons and keep the peace, but there's also many miles we could be. All the world's nations, what do they say? When we stamp all this death made in USA. We need a rain dance. We need a rain dance. We need a rain dance. Rain dance.
that Ashby has been cooking for 2 days to make this delicious food and help coordinate all this amazing food. So don't let him be humble. Give him big thanks because it's delicious. So. All right, Mr. Price, if you'd like to come on up. This is Bill Price with the Sierra Club.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, I said. All right. I wanted to come down to Summers County. I love coming to Monroe, Summers, Pocahontas County, where I was a couple of days ago. Do I have to do this to keep it from doing? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to come in and congratulate you all. You've had some major wins in the last few weeks. For instance, the West Virginia Department has said that their 401, they're going to pull it back off. They're going to have to take another look at that 401 certification. And that was happening because of you all. Just last night in North Carolina, their DEQ said that their soil and erosion plan on the ACP was not going to go through. That's because of you and people like you in North Carolina. In Virginia today, there are people like you that are, and some Virginians are here also. I saw your cars come in. Yeah, thanks for coming to this. So I wanted to just congratulate you on what you've done so far. And to tell you that there's a lot more that needs to be done, obviously, right? We are in a unique time in this country where the energy industries of coal and gas and other polluting industries want to take our country away from us. And I know that there are people like you who will resist that to the last ounce of energy that you have. So I have a word for you. Resist. Keep resisting. When they come after your land, resist. When they come after your mountains, resist. When they come after the Greenbrier River, resist. We tell them, not with our water, not with our land, not with our mountains, and not with our human rights.
That's right.
Because for me, the why of why I am involved in this fight and the other fights is because this is against human rights. You have a right to live in this beautiful area without worrying about dirty water, without worrying about not being able to fish in that stream, without worrying about your quality of life. You have the human right to live without large corporations coming in and destroying your homeland. So, today, I got one other thing. I have an alternative for them, by the way. If they want to build a pipeline so bad, they could go in this guy's backyard. And they could build that pipeline there. This is the Chief Executive Officer of EQT. And I dare say that he probably would resist if his backyard was being destroyed for a pipeline. But the thing is, he has about $10 million in compensation that he could use for that. I bet y'all don't have that, right? Y'all don't have that kind of money. I'm assuming. If you do, come see me. But what we do have is the power of you and the individuals like you and more individuals who are coming into these battles every day. So today, celebrate the victory. Go out there, shake people's hands. People that you have met, people you have not met. Go out and tell them thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. But then I need you to do something else. Next week, I need you to go out and you find someone who's not here, who hasn't been involved in the struggle against these pipelines, and talk to them. They may not agree with you on a lot of things, but what they may say is, you know what, you're right. Our human rights are being destroyed. So go out there, have those conversations, bring even more people into this movement, because it is a movement that is growing and needs to grow more and more and more. So thank you for having me come down today. I'm going to leave you with one word. Resist!
Bill, and I think it's important to point out that the Sierra Club has been a key ally, especially in that lawsuit, which helped raise awareness about the insufficiencies of that 401 permit. Instead of letting that case go to a federal judge and having a federal judge tell Mountain Valley Pipeline, yes, that's an invalid permit, the West Virginia DEP said, actually, give us that permit back and let us work on it some more. That came because people like you went out, made comments, participated in the process, and a big part of today's event and our work in general is making sure folks are informed, engaged, and participating in that process. So thank you so much, Bill, and thanks to the Sierra Club for being a part of that lawsuit. Next, I have Autumn Crow with the West Virginia Rivers Coalition. Ms. Crow.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
There we go. No, I don't have to stand on my tippy toes. So I am the program director for West Virginia Rivers Coalition, and I'm also an environmental scientist, and I'm also a lover of the Greenbrier River. And so, yeah, give the river a hand. So I grew up swimming and fishing in the Greenbrier, and that's really kind of what instilled in me that need to preserve and protect our environment. And it kind of set me down that path of environmentalism and turned me into a little environmental scientist. And so I'm using that knowledge to help protect our river, working for West Virginia Rivers Coalition. And so I just wanted to give you kind of an update on where we're at with the permits that are needed for MVP to cross the Greenbrier River and construct this pipeline. And I'm happy to report that they don't have any of them, so that's great. And that's because of you guys. Like we said, you know, we really put a lot of pressure on DEP, and so as far as the 401 water quality certification goes, they have pulled it, they've withdrawn it, and they have to do a better job. So that's great. One of the things that they're going to be required to do now, and this is the basis of what the lawsuit was about, was they have to do an anti-degradation review. And what that is, this river is a Tier 2 river. It has very high quality. There's a little bit of fecal coliform in there, which has it impaired a little bit, but it's still a very high quality river. And in order for them to permit a project that would degrade that water quality, they have to do an anti-degradation review. So they have to go back and review the project and determine whether it's going to be able to meet the water quality standards that are in place. So there's going to be a lot of sedimentation and turbidity issues where they're going to, they want to basically dig a 9-foot trench through the bottom of the river. And that's going to stir up a lot of sediment, and that's going to create impacts for the dog's not going to like it. He's not going to be able to swim in it. Nobody wants to swim in muddy water. So nobody wants to drink muddy water, and the fish certainly aren't going to be able to survive in muddy water. So they're going to have to go back and see whether or not this project is going to be able to meet the water quality standards. My guess is that it's probably not going to. But there's a little clause in there that says, well, if it's for economic and social benefits, then you may be able to degrade the water quality. So we have to make sure that we let them know that this river is so important to us that we don't want the water quality degraded so that some pipeline company can make lots of profits off of it. So make sure that you sign up for West Virginia Rivers alerts. I have a sign-up sheet on the table in there, and we're going to let you know every step of the process. We're going to keep tabs. We're like the watchdogs for DEP, and we're going to make sure that they do their job. And so if they decide that they want to waive their responsibility, we're going to be on them and say, no, we don't think so. That's not what we want you to do. We want you to do your job. So make sure you sign up for our action alerts so that you can stay informed in the process and put pressure on them whenever it's needed. So the other permit that they had to get is a stormwater construction permit. And that permit is basically to approve a sediment and erosion control plan where the company will say that they're going to put in silt fences and filter socks in place to control the runoff from digging up all of that dirt to lay the pipeline in. So that permit, they actually issued that permit as well in July. And we were like, huh, that's funny because we never got notified. We submitted comments with 27 sign-on organizations, and we know at least 150 of you guys also submitted comments through our action alert system. And how come we never got notified? We talked to Indian Creek Watershed about it, and they said, yeah, we never got notified either. So we were like, well, let's look into this. So we called DEP and we said, hey, how come you issued this permit without notifying us? They were like, wait, uh-oh, let me see. You're not on our list. And so what happened was they actually, a lot of the comments slipped through the cracks. They had 3 different permits that they had open for comments at the same time, and somebody messed up and didn't forward all of the comments to the permit writers. So we were like, well, you do know that that's against the law. You have to respond to all of the comments that are submitted, and you have to address those comments and incorporate them into the permit if needed. So we were like, what are you going to do about it? So they actually suspended the permit, and they're going back and redoing it. Yeah, so that's huge. And it's because we were watching, and it's because all of you guys were submitting comments that we made that happen. So they have to go back and review all of the comments and make sure all of those comments are addressed. And then, if they want to issue the permit at that point, then we have an opportunity to appeal it to the Environmental Quality Board. So make sure you stay updated on this issue, because we're going to need you to apply pressure to them to make sure that they're doing their job. Now the other permit is the Natural Stream Preservation Permit, and that's specifically for this beautiful Greenbrier River. That permit was put in place many years ago over impoundments. It was basically to protect the river from dams, but it also protects it from any kind of construction activity, because the way that the Natural Stream Preservation Act was written was that they have to preserve the natural character of the river. Now, putting a 50-foot right-of-way through the river and digging a 9-foot trench doesn't exactly preserve the natural integrity of the river. So they issued that permit, and we reviewed that permit, and we decided that that permit wasn't good enough. So we got Elise here to help us, and the Greenbrier River Watershed and the Indian Creek Watershed, and a couple other landowners signed on, and we appealed that permit to the Environmental Quality Board. They didn't have any protections in there for Big Bend Public Service District. So Big Bend gets their drinking water out of the Greenbrier River. So anybody that lives in Penn Springs or Talcott that isn't on well water is drinking that Greenbrier River, and we want to make sure that that drinking water is going to stay clean and it's going to be healthy and safe for people to drink. So that permit we also appealed, and we'll be arguing in front of the Environmental Quality Board sometime this winter, I think December, to let them know that the pipeline is not going to preserve the natural integrity of the Greenbrier River because it's going to damage the water quality, and you're not going to be able to drink it for the residents that rely on that.
Can they get a permit without this?
They cannot build this pipeline without these permits. So even if the FERC issues that certificate saying that it's necessary for them to take people's land and build this pipeline, the state can stop it. So right now, they can't go anywhere. Even if they got that certificate tomorrow, they could not move 1 acre of soil or cross 1 stream without those permits from DEP. So that's why it's so important that we stay informed and put pressure on them and make sure that we preserve this river for future generations.
Express how important West Virginia Rivers Coalition has been in this process, because folks like Autumn and Angie Rosser and the folks at the Rivers Coalition comb through those permits. They do the dirty work that is really tough stuff. They find the points that are at issue, they find the mishaps, and they point them out, and they're just really awesome at it. And so thank you so much for everything that you all do. It makes it easy for us to do this work. Easier. It makes it easier. Next, we're going to hear from Peter Anderson with Appalachian Voices to talk about their role in this process. And I was told to point out that there are games of cornhole out in the grass in between speakers. There are also some horseshoes up here. If you're like me and you like to pitch horseshoes, there are some horseshoe pits over here. Make sure the kids are out of the way if you go throwing horseshoes around out there. And Peter, if you'd like to come up, thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Anderson. I'm the Virginia Program Director at Appalachian Voices. We are a regional organization. We've got 2 offices in Virginia, a headquarters in Boone, North Carolina. We've got a satellite office near Knoxville, Tennessee. And we are working at the sort of nexus of the energy transition in the Appalachian, southern central Appalachian region. So we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, and we sort of made our name as an organization opposing mountaintop removal coal mining and trying to preserve people's water who live below the coal mine. In the recent years, we've branched out a bit and getting more into the solution side. So while we are busy fighting the terrible impacts of fossil fuel extraction, we are also fighting for solutions like more solar, more wind, battery storage, things that, you know, we expect people to use electricity, but we want it to be clean and not have an impact on your water and on your air. So we've been, our Virginia team has been very much engaged in fighting both the Mountain Valley and the Atlantic Coast pipelines. Like Sierra Club and Bill, and like Autumn and West Virginia Rivers, we've also been very involved in the permitting processes and trying to help people have their voices heard as part of the public comment sessions for these permits, all the various permits that are required. It's interesting working. I drove in from Charlottesville this morning. It was a lovely drive going down 64 through the GW Forest on this perfect October day. Virginia's kind of a funny place. We have a governor over there who says he believes in climate action. He's about to regulate carbon emissions from power plants. And yet, he's a big supporter of both of these natural gas pipelines, and we find that a little bit hypocritical. Some friends of ours over at an organization called Oil Change International did studies on the life cycle of greenhouse gas emissions of Mountain Valley and Atlantic Coast pipelines. And from the wellhead, from the frack gas wellhead in northwest West Virginia, through the pipeline, through the storage facilities, all the way to, allegedly, they're going to power plants to produce electricity, where the gas will allegedly be burned to turn the lights on. They do a life cycle emission study that shows the Mountain Valley pipeline, their conclusion is, would be the greenhouse gas equivalent of building 26 new coal-fired power plants. The Atlantic Coast pipeline will be the greenhouse gas equivalent of 20 new coal-fired power plants. So when you hear people talk about how clean natural gas is, that's not the whole story. only in the burning at the electric plant is it cleaner than coal. The whole rest of the way, methane is escaping into the atmosphere. Methane is a very intense greenhouse gas. So we don't want that detail to get lost in the story when people talk about clean natural gas. So we're trying to hold Governor McAuliffe accountable and point out his hypocrisy on that issue. But we know that's not the key to stopping these pipelines. We know that water is the key. As Bill and Autumn were explaining, while these are federal projects with a federal certificate from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC as you hear that term thrown around so often, these pipelines do need state water permits, and states get that authority from the Federal Clean Water Act. So West Virginia implements the Clean Water Act in West Virginia, and the Virginia DEQ implements the Federal Clean Water Act in Virginia. So they have to meet state water quality standards and get a state permit in order to go through. All along, Governor McAuliffe was telling us, oh, I don't have authority, it's a federal thing, I'm just your lowly state governor, I can't stop these pipelines. Well, he can, and New York State has stopped 2 pipelines using their Clean Water Act authority already. They've stopped the Northern Access Pipeline, they've stopped the Constitution Pipeline. Constitution Pipeline's already been challenged in court, and the Second Circuit upheld New York's decision to stop the pipeline based on its water quality impacts. Our politics are not like New York's.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that we don't have the same authority, and it doesn't mean that our citizens in Virginia, in West Virginia, in North Carolina, it doesn't mean that we deserve clean water any less than New Yorkers. So like Elise and Bill and Autumn, I just want to celebrate the victories we've had so far. We thought that both pipelines would be starting construction at this point. They are not, and they won't be until 2018 at the earliest, because of efforts like yours and efforts like all the organizations that are involved. To give you a quick update, we've heard about how the water quality cert in West Virginia has been rescinded or vacated by the DEP, so they can take a look again at that anti-degradation part of the permit. West Virginia has not yet issued its water permit for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, so we're still waiting on that. Virginia has not decided on its state water quality permits for either pipeline, and we have what's called a citizen board in Virginia. So our Department of Environmental Quality will make recommendations, but then this 7-member citizen board will ultimately decide whether it's going to go with DEQ's recommendation, or which will probably say, go ahead and issue the permit, or if it's going to listen to the people who are impacted by the project and listen to science and listen to the evidence on the record and decide that actually it would violate the law to issue these permits, because there's no way that state water quality standards will not be violated by the construction of both of these pipelines. And let's take 1 second to celebrate again North Carolina deciding that the erosion and sediment plan on the ACP was not up to snuff. They sent it back, said this is deficient. So another delay on the ACP in North Carolina. Okay, I will stop boring you with permits. How can you get involved? Get involved, start volunteering your time with your local pipeline opposition group. I know probably that's 95% of you who are here are already doing that, so thank you. But you can go, especially for Mountain Valley Pipeline, powhr.org, Power, Protect Our Water Heritage Rights. Yeah, let's hear it for Power. They are a coalition of all the local Preserve the Greenbrier, Save Peters Mountain type groups spread across West Virginia and Virginia fighting the Mountain Valley Pipeline, so check them out. Call your governor or your elected officials at the state level and tell them that you deserve clean water just like New Yorkers. If you are a property owner, refuse entry onto your land for surveys, stay strong, don't sign an easement agreement. If you live in the general area of where the pipelines are routed, volunteer to be a citizen scientist. West Virginia Rivers, I believe, already has a water quality monitoring program. Appalachian Voices is trying to start one in Virginia. Trout Unlimited does this already, I think, on federal lands or wherever there are cold water streams for where trout would live. So there's a lot of resources to get you involved. You just, like, people will hook you up with a meter. You can like take the temperature and pH and maybe even test for sedimentation. If you want to get involved in that, ask Autumn, ask myself, and we'll try to get you started. And also sign up to join one of these organizations like the Sierra Club, like West Virginia Rivers, like Appalachian Voices, like Indian Creek Watershed Association. I'm leaving one out here. Oh, CCAN, Chesapeake Climate Action Network. These are the organizations who have all challenged the 401 at the in the Fourth Circuit that West Virginia issued. So we need members of standing to go to court for these types of things. So if you might be impacted at all by the construction of one of these pipelines, whether you own property on the route or not, it's a great idea. You know, if you enjoy the Greenbrier River, that's sometimes enough to get you into court. And so organizations like ours need members of standing so that we can go and do that work, challenging these permits. That's all I've got, other than one last reminder. I'll say it for a third time. Do we deserve clean water any less than New York? I don't think so. So tell your elected official that you want clean water and to stop these pipelines. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter, and I really encourage you to get connected with Appalachian Voices. I know about them from my previous lifetime of work with the mountaintop removal, coal mining, and so they're a great asset to have as part of this fight. I mentioned in my opening remarks about having a bit of a heavy heart here today and thinking about the impact on our communities up north, and I just want to share with you that some of the folks that have been very instrumental in this fight here locally are also suffering some pretty severe health impacts, some health issues, and that have been, I think, probably compounded by their stress and their worry about the pipelines. We have a couple of folks in Monroe County who are very ill right now and not able to join with us, and so I just want to keep them in our thoughts and in our prayers and in our presence today here. They're very much with us, even though they're not with us physically in this moment, and I just want to hold them up and remember that this is something that we deal with on the front lines of extraction communities. We deal with effects not only to our water and to our health and to our life and our livelihoods, but also to our health and our well-being, and that's something that we can't overlook. So please just keep those folks present in your minds with us today. Howdy has some comments about some of this fabulous Peters Mountain water as well.
As a fundraiser, beginning of the year, we made some no pipeline water, which is bottled off of Peters Mountain from Sweet Springs Valley Water Company. It's no longer available. I mean, this is it. So I have 2 cases of water that I got left. Susan and I bought the last 15 cases. She's got some for sale, ice cold water over there for sale if you like some. And then we have 2 cases that we'd like to, I'm not sure if auction off is the right word or not, but there's a case of water up here that we'd love to get donations for, and it's not going to be available anymore. There's no pipeline, Peters Mountain water. This is a relic, folks. So you got your chance right here to come up, and whoever gives me the most money can take it with them. So keep up the good fight and protect our water, because without it, we got nothing. Thanks.
And Maury's going to share just a few words, and then once Maury finishes, we'll have Rush Run join us again on the stage for some more fabulous music.
We've got a number of sponsors, not only local. We have one national sponsor, the Wilderness Society. You'll hear some about that after a while. We have a couple of regional sponsors that couldn't be here today. Before I go farther, Elise, don't sit down. Elise is a new mother, and she's been a wonderful partner. There's her young son. I want everybody to give Elise a big round of applause. We're doing this today, and everything she's done. Okay, so first, we heard from Bill Price. He's West Virginia Sierra Club. Kurt Bauer with the Virginia Sierra Club. They couldn't be here today, but he did send a letter. The ACP and MVP has yet to receive certificate approval from the FERC. However, there's probability that the pipeline developers may gain approval even though the pipeline is not in the public interest. It serves only one purpose: to provide profit to shareholders. Any perceived value from the proposed pipeline is far outweighed by the damage done to the people, the environment, and property rights by fracking and pipeline construction. These concerns and experiences are confirmed by numerous independent groups and studies. One independent study reveals that just 4 counties in Virginia would likely experience billions of dollars of loss and damage should the pipeline be built. Dominion and EQT have played the inevitability card on these controversial projects since they were announced. It is a marketing propaganda at its best, supported by ruthless and questionable legal tactics to quash all opposition. So far, they have failed at quashing a popular uprising among environmentalists and residents along the pipeline proposed route. Literally thousands of individuals, you guys, and groups are fighting the MVP and ACP along every inch of its 300 and 600 mile proposed route. Even though FERC may approve the permits, the campaign is far from over. We will challenge and appeal all FERC permits in court. The Sierra Club recently won a legal challenge against the Sable Trail pipeline. There is hope in light of this ruling. A recent ruling, and you've heard this, a recent ruling in West Virginia vacated the Section 401 certificate for the MVP, creating additional delays for permitting. The Section 401 are far from complete in West Virginia, and North Carolina for the ACP. I strongly urge you to stay strong, stay positive, and never give up. We shall try again and again, and we are bound to succeed. There will be obstacles, but we have to defy them. So do not give up, do not give up, do not give up. The goal ahead of you in this campaign is far from over. Thank you, Kurt Bauer, Virginia Sierra. Okay, so I got some of this stuff over on the wall. She spoke about CCAN. CCAN came on board. They are based in Washington, D.C. You can check out their mission statements over here. If I run out, I can print more. If you are interested in becoming, like Peter said, get involved with all these groups. If you want to get on their mailing list, there's a paper over here you can sign up, and I'll send all that stuff to CCAN the first of the week. Okay, the next one is Appalachian Trail and the Roanoke Appalachian Trail Conservancy. A major player in this is going to be the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail Conservancy has never opposed a pipeline or a power line project. They've always worked with industry to cite those things in the least destructive way. Not so with the MVP. I have a letter over here, which I'll print for you if you want to take it with you, that was written by the Appalachian Trail Conservancy about what they really think about this pipeline and how it's going to impact or destroy the trail for 100 miles. So the letter I got was from Diana Christophilus. She's the president of the Roanoke Appalachian Trail Club. And you'll see on that bulletin board over there, at the bottom you see appalachiantrail.org/MVP. If you go to that website, there's a lot of information there and a lot of videos they've done. So that you can write that down. I also have Save Monroe, West Virginia, their email over there too. But this is from the Appalachian Trail. To our friends and neighbors in West Virginia, please know that you are not alone in opposing the dangerous and unnecessary Mountain Valley Pipeline. Both the Roanoke Appalachian Trail Club, which maintains 120 miles from Bland County, Virginia to Back Horse Gap on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, which is the overall agency that oversees the project, staunchly oppose this project. We oppose the pipeline, and I'm going to skip over some of the stuff. You can read the letter over there if you want to. And it says, perhaps most disturbingly of all, it would perpetrate environmental injustice on our neighbors by using the federal power of eminent domain to seize the use of private property from unwilling property owners to benefit a Pennsylvania fracking company, EQT. That will mean a loss of $500 million a year. Such companies should not receive federal bailouts on the backs of West Virginia and Virginia landowners. And I'm not going to read the entire letter, but you can read it over there. Not one single permit has been issued. We stand with you and continue to fight. Diana Christophilus, President, Roanoke Appalachian Trail Club. And finally, another very important partner on this whole deal is the Wilderness Society. I don't have many of these to give out, but they did every few years they issue a report talking about the most endangered places in America. And in September they issued this thing called Too Wild to Drill. It's the 15 places across the country that's most at risk from gas and oil development and pipeline construction. And the Mountain Valley Pipeline is one of the places in here. So I have 4 or 5 of these over here if you want to look at them and bring them back. I've given some to a few people that I know will take them and show them to their congressman. But in there, There was a little, they made a little editing mistake, and we fixed it on page 2. We also fixed it on page 30. But there'll be 5 of these over here if you want to look at them and share them and put them back. I've given a few out. I don't have a whole lot left, and I want to make sure the media gets them and our congressman gets them and that thing. So I want to thank you all, and time to play some music. We're going to dance.
Then he broke his poor heart. Then he laid down his hammer and he died, Lord. Laid down his hammer and he died. Then they took John and they to the White House and they buried him in the sand. And every locomotive from the rolling by said, "There lies a steel driving man, Lord. There lies a steel driving man. There lies a steel driving man, Lord. There lies a steel driving man." I just seen a face I can't forget. Time or place, well, we just met. She's just a girl for me. I want all the world to see we met. Na 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 na. Had it been another day, I might have looked the other way, and things would not have been like this. As it is, I'll dream of her tonight. Na 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 na. Falling, yes I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again. Just seen the face, I can't forget the time or place. Well, we just met, she's just a girl for me. I want all the world to see we met. Na 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 na. Falling, yes I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again. Had it been another day, I might have looked the other way, and things would not have been like this. But as it is, I'll dream of her tonight. Na 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 na. Falling, yes I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again. I'm falling, yes I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again.
More than just stuff flowing through here, the water of life. It's also metaphorical. Water is love, intuition,
And music. Let's play it.
water.
All day I faced the barren waste without the taste of water. Cool water. Old man and I with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water. Clean water, clean water, water, water. Keep moving, man, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's a devil, not a man, and he spreads the burning sand with water. And can you see that big green tree where the water's running free, and it's waiting there for me and you? The nights are cool and I'm a fool. Each star's a pool of water. Cool water. But with the dawn I'll wake and yawn and carry on to water. Clean water. man, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's a devil, not a man, and he spreads the burning sand with the water. Dan, can you see that big green tree where the water's running free and it's waiting there for me and you? Dan's feet are sore, he's searching for just one thing more than water. Ooh, water. Like me, I guess he'd like to rest where there's no quest for water. Cool water, clear water, water, water. Cool water, clear water, water, water. I think Elise wanted to use the microphone again. All right. Come on up.
Really amazing music, and it's a lot of fun to listen to them. They're also being super accommodating to us as we kind of move around and stop their music and bring speakers up. So we're going to let folks settle in for our next round of speakers. We're going to be hearing from Lori Artisan, who's going to be speaking on behalf of the POWER organization, the Protect Our Water Heritage and Rights. And then we're going to hear from Judy Asley, who's going to talk about the Indian Creek Watershed Association and Save Monroe and Preserve Monroe. 3 groups, I'm not really sure which ones. So if folks want to gather back around, Lori, if you're ready, we'll have you come up and say a few words. And I tell this story because it's important to me, but when I very first started this organizing work, my very first meeting was in Monroe County. And as an organizer, you learn to go into communities with a very humble heart and a humble opinion, and to kind of look around at what the community's doing and understand it before you go in there and say, here, I'm here to do this and do that. And at my very first meeting in Monroe County, Lori was the one who, after I introduced myself and said what my new role was, she said, Elise is important and we're glad to have her here. So she kind of helped introduce me into the community and into this movement. And for that, I'm very grateful. So thank you, Lori, and thank you for the work you're doing with POWER. So it's your game.
I've got to make this pretty low. I am so not big. Okay, I think I probably have the blessing to know most of you guys. You have, seriously? Seriously, speaker, all right. But everything that's happened has happened because of people hooking up, sticking tight. I dare say that a lot of us here would not have had clue one who anybody else was if we hadn't come together under these grisly, god-awful, horrible circumstances, right? But this is what's done it. We're so delayed. I ditto everything everybody has said so far today. They're amazing, right? The groups that have created the change, that have created the solidarity that has made this resistance possible are outstanding. POWER came together. Ellen and I decided we needed to pull together the entire proposed route of this pipeline. And Ellen Darden is in Virginia, so she is my co-chair with POWER. And together we had a vision, largely also because of Elise, and traveled this route, this proposed route, came to know the people in the different communities, and ultimately we created an interstate coalition. Nothing that has been done to date would have been done if people weren't working together. And it's taken some pretty hairy organization to make this happen. It's taken day, night, day after day of sticking tight with people who we probably didn't know before these proposed pipelines popped up. But this is what we've got. Putting things into perspective, when we started fighting the fracking 8 years ago, There was nothing. You couldn't get information. If we went online to see if somebody had said something about fracking, there might be something every month or two. There was nothing. Look what has happened in the ensuing 8 years. Globally, certainly nationally, West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, we are an incredible force. And it's all been possible because of coalition work. And the coalition is only as strong as the individual groups. And you guys are rocking it. Elise made reference to some of the people in our fight who are not well. We have people up north in the fracking areas who are seriously not well. Many have died. We've lost people who have been fighting the MVP specifically, and we have others for whom the stress is pushing their physical problems out the door. We really, really have to have each other's backs here. We have to stick tight. We are not done. It's not certified at this point. If it is certified, I think people need to really be thinking what they're going to do when equipment, if it happens, comes to their door. And where Bill says we have to resist, we have got to resist. And we've got to figure out how to do it in a way where we are using our bodies or whatever else we have left, but we can't let this happen. This is one of the most egregious violations of human rights that you can look at in this country. It is abominable, and we have to continue fighting it. We have to stop it. Right now, DEP, DEQ are our two aces in the holes. We must keep hammering at them. We can't let up for a minute. They need to know that we are not kidding. Their feet are going to be held to the fire, and legally we are going to nail them. They have been served legally, Forest Service, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and all of this is possible because of the coalition work. Without everybody talking to everybody else in this group, and everybody has had gifts manifest their own talents. They have absolutely, you have, not they, you guys have made this possible. So really, really hang in there, but do it in a way where you're going to be able to see this through and where you're going to have the backing of one another. We need to stick tight and to take this to another step. I'm just going to ask that we have about 30 seconds of silence to really, really consider the people who we have lost and are going to lose in this struggle, because their suffering is real. It's really, really sad, and it's infuriating. But I can't leave this mic without bringing them into this room in our hearts, okay? So. Thanks, I appreciate that. These people who have, in some ways, given their lives for this have done exactly that. And everybody who's sitting here, everybody knows what that stress feels like. Everybody's taken a hit, everybody's continuing to take hits, but some aren't making it out of the kiln, you know? And they're part of this struggle in a way I hope none of us have to be. Thank you.
My name is Judy Agile. I'm from Monroe County. Okay, how's this? Like right on the mic. Okay. I'm Judy Agile. I'm from Monroe County, and I'm the semi-chosen representative right now from the 3 groups in Monroe County who are fighting the pipeline. And let me tell you about who they are and what they're doing. Preserve Monroe was a group that started specifically to fight the pipeline, and it was the first group that was organized to fight the pipeline in Monroe County. Preserve Monroe right now is focusing mostly on making sure that people have information through the Facebook page and other assorted community events. Save Monroe is the group that is based on actually there's 4 groups, sorry. Okay, Save Monroe is based in Linside. Linside right now is ground zero for the proposed route through Monroe County. And what Save Monroe is doing, and Save Monroe is putting all of its forces into, is fighting the pipeline going through the Jefferson National Forest. The Jefferson National Forest borders Monroe County on the Virginia side. And Tammy Belinsky, who is here, Tammy, want to say hi? Tammy Belinsky is our secret weapon. And Tammy is the attorney who has been fighting with the Forest Service to help them do their job. How's that for a characterization? And people from Save Monroe have been gathering information and helping Tammy. And, okay, so that's a piece of it. The Border Conservancy was an old-time group that had been organized to fight the APCO line. The line that the Appalachian Power Company was going to take through West Virginia and take through Monroe County. And that fight was started by the Border Conservancy and Common Ground. And at one point, the MVP moved the proposed route from Linside to Zenith, and the Border Conservancy, who had worked together 20 years ago, got re-energized and they fought it there. The pipeline is not crossing there at this point, it's crossing back at Linside. The people at the Border Conservancy and Zenith certainly did not want to throw it back into Linside. That's just how it was. The 4th group that's operating in Monroe County is Indian Creek Watershed Association. Indian Creek Watershed Association is a long-standing group. It's been in Monroe County, I think it's 22 years now. We started about the same time as, or a little bit after, the Greenbrier Watershed Association, or the Friends of the Lower Greenbrier, whatever it was called at that iteration, which is where this t-shirt came from. This t-shirt, with the help, well, with the creation of Dick and Vivian, who helped fight the Woodguard fight. So that's where the Watershed Association started on the Greenbrier here to start that fight. Anyway, so the Indian Creek Watershed Association has been working on water issues, working right now with West Virginia rivers, and Autumn already spoke about that fight at the 401 and the 401 and the stormwater permit. We've been submitting a lot of water data to the FERC. We've been fighting for water because the pipeline is going to cross Karst in Monroe County. We sent into DEP documentation of every stream crossing, every headwater crossing. So they have a lot of very intensive information from Monroe County. We're hoping that they treat Monroe County the same way that we're hoping that they treat the other counties in West Virginia. And that's the point that we've tried to make with Indian Creek, is that we're looking at Indian Creek, we're looking at basically every foot of Indian Creek and every foot of the pipeline. And we want that same inspection, and we want that same care taken to all the other places where the pipeline's going through, because we know it's affecting the water. I think that's basically, and I don't think that Howdy talked about, Howdy, are you here? Okay. One of the things that we learned very early on, I just want to leave you with this, is one of the things we learned very early on, which kept us pretty motivated, is think about the things that you want to have done. Because the pipeline, as you know, is so negative. You know, it's just sapping all of our energy. There's nothing good that comes out of fighting the pipeline, except for friendship, which is amazing, right? Friendship and supporting each other. And hopefully, the bonds that we're making are going to, at some point, let us create something fabulous. Meanwhile, we're trying to focus on getting something good to come out of it. And one of the things that we have been working in Monroe County for years and years and years is to get some hydro analysis about our water. And so, separate from the pipeline, we now have a huge hydrogeological study going on in Monroe that's being led by the USGS, by the United States Geological Survey. So that's a positive thing that's come out of it. So I urge you all, as we're going forward and fighting this as hard as we can, to think about what else you want to accomplish that's going to protect the environment, and it's going to elevate people's thinking about the environment to higher than what people are thinking about. Okay? Thank you.
So I just have to say, you know, the men and women in particular who have been working and organizing on this pipeline have been just tremendous influences in our communities and in our lives. So thank you very much to those folks. So it sounds like we're going to have Rush Run play a few more songs and then wrap up your set. And then as Rush Run is tidying up their music equipment and moving out of the way for the next band, we're going to go out and try to do a group picture for the folks who are still here. So it'll take a little bit of time for that transition. And then after that, we'll come back in and...
while they're still setting up, we have a few more people that can talk while they're still setting up.
All right, so we have some more folks who are going to speak while the second band is setting up. So we're going to invite Rush Run back up to the band. Thank you again, Rush Run, for providing such fantastic music to us this afternoon. And we look forward to the end of your set, and thanks again.
A good bit of the day yesterday laying out what a pipeline corridor would look like. So that's what that is over there. It's 125 foot between red flags and 75 feet between the yellow flags. And they spent 2 or 3 hours here yesterday measuring and putting that out. And I wanted to acknowledge their hard work for that yesterday.
Thank you guys.
That's what I said, it's the landowner on the other side of the Ashby's on the Greenbrier River.
Be here and take part in something that's so near and dear to me. I'm the chair of the Mountain Party presently. Elise is a former chair. I also was sort of the tip of the spear on getting medical cannabis passed, which we got passed this past legislative session as a lead lobbyist, and you know, I came out, and the Mountain Party came out first on all of these issues, whether it was cannabis or LGBT or whether it was stopping fracking. From the very beginning, 2011, we gathered, and many of you were there, around the fountain at the Capitol for a big rally. At that point, we pretty much had enough votes to have a moratorium with the legislature. But unfortunately, we trusted the incoming governor, Tomlin, who put together a joint subcommittee to put together the legislation going forward for fracking. Many legislators, House and Senate members worked very hard on that all summer, and which he then immediately threw out in favor of an ALEC bill that ended up passing. So one of the things that I want to urge everyone is that, you know, we hear a lot of scuttlebutt. We have to bond with each other, multi-generational, across every ethnic line. We have to find comfort in being uncomfortable and talking about our causes and talking about issues that people don't want to hear about, frankly. But the reality is that when you're talking about yourself and how it affects yourself, then it's amazing what can happen. And I'll give you a quick example. During the time that we were doing the cannabis bill, and the bill was coming back for the final time to the House, and the guy whose job it was, majority leader, to accept that message and either allow it to stand or not, I got to bend his ear just a little bit prior, and I talked about my brother, a lifelong law enforcement officer from the local all the way to the federal level and veteran, and his wife, the mother of his 3 children, who was dying of ALS. And many of you probably know Lou Gehrig's disease and understand that it's a horrible way to go. And he had taken her to Cleveland Clinic, and Cleveland Clinic said that they had done everything that they could do. That the point now was to make her as comfortable as she could possibly be. And so they recommended cannabis. And so that left my brother with a, very tough position to be a lifelong law enforcement officer, to suddenly be faced with providing the mother, and he was her primary the caregiver for her, and to help her to transition. And I will tell you that though we did successfully get the bill passed, I urge all of you to call your legislators, all of them, immediately. Call the cannabis board, the medical cannabis board, immediately, and tell them that now is the time to expedite what they can do. And what they can do is they can make this available. Patient access needs to be here and now and not in 2019. Because, and I'll give you my one personal example, that legislator who had been against it the whole time ended up allowing it to come through and stand, and it passed after hearing the plight of my brother and his family. Well, tomorrow, I leave here to go back and attend the service of my sister-in-law. She never got to do what she should have been able to do with a simple plant. We as Appalachians and mountaineers who are supposed to always be free are not. We're not free to decide our end of days. We're not free to decide how we care for ourselves and our families. And the only thing that prevents us from being able to do that is us. We need to have the courage that when we walk out of here, you call 10 people that you know and you tell them about what happened today, and tell them that you need their help and they need their help. Because they couldn't make it, that doesn't mean that you can't be effective in helping them change this state for the better. We can stop the pipeline, and we should have stopped the pipeline. We should have stopped fracking before it passed. We should not have trusted a governor coming in who we knew what he was up to before he did it, but we wanted to believe, we participated, we did all the things that you do to allow our system of government to work. But sometimes you have to do something different, and that's where I would advocate the Mountain Party for my little plug right here, right now, People Powered Party, that advocates for people and people's issues. If you haven't checked out our platform, please do. But the reality is that we have allowed a moneyed system to take over everything. And we have to take it back. And we can take it back. But we gotta we gotta get together. We've gotta hold hands. We've gotta prop each other up. And when someone's not feeling up to it and not having the courage to step up, you gotta step up with them. You hold their hand, you stand beside them, and you say, we can do this, we will do this, and I'm here to help you, because that's what it takes. And that neighborliness is what is missing today. We are being taught by the television, by talk radio, to be afraid. Be constantly afraid of your neighbors. Don't trust your neighbors. Don't trust the people around you. They're not your enemies. They are not. They're your neighbors. And how good of a neighbor they are depends on how good of a neighbor you are. So I just want to urge everyone that, you know, if you look around, you think there's too few of us, you're right. Go forth and multiply, because we can do this, we must do this, and there's a lot to do. So let's work together and let's get it done.
Jesse was here to be with us today, and this was a really good example of the legislative involvement and what can come from legislative involvement from grassroots efforts. And so I'm also going to put a plug in here right now for our forced pooling efforts. As you heard me talk in my opening remarks, one of the things that the pipeline necessitates is more gas, and one way that they get gas is by forcing people who own their minerals into units, and then forcing them into the unit so that they can extract the gas, folks who own their minerals who otherwise wouldn't extract it. We also have a really strong legislative coalition that works specifically during the legislative session with landowners who own their minerals. And so if you're interested in learning more about how to be a part of that, we've been really successful for the past couple years in holding off that legislation, but they see us, they know us, they're working in coalition right now against us, so we're going to have a big fight on our hands in the coming legislative session. So come see me about that if you're interested in that. I'm going to let Maury introduce our next speaker.
It can be done.
It will be done. Okay, so Tammy, we might as well come up next. So the next young lady we have here is Tammy Belinsky. She's an environmental lawyer who's from Floyd County. She's representing Sabin Rose, Preserve Craig, the Wilderness Society, and a lot of other people. Just those people. Well, anyway, so come up, Tammy. Tammy Belinsky is from Floyd County. She's a great asset. She's the one that's dealing with the Forest Service and all those issues. And I'll let her do the rest of the talking.
Thank you, folks. Mari just said it all. I'm preparing to litigate against the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management on behalf of the Wilderness Society, Preserve Craig, and Sabin Row. And just like Peter said, we're going to need some folks to be our standing declarants, to be individuals who say that they use the Jefferson National Forest. And so if you are one of those people, let me know, because I'll need you in the litigations, particularly if you're a member of the Wilderness Society. And thanks to the Wilderness Society for helping sponsor the event today and for preparing the pamphlet about the places that shouldn't be fracked or piped. It's great to be here today. The river's beautiful. It's a little drier. Everybody knows it's a little bit dry. I've been driving around. I live on a dirt road, and I've got an SUV. Forgive me, but I was in an accident, and when I was in an accident, I decided I was going to get a bigger car, so I did. But it's filthy dirty from being on my dirt road and coming over here. I can't even see out the back window. And I thought, well, I'm just going to remind people how important water is by driving around in my dirty car, and hopefully they'll get a hint that we need some rain just by looking at my dirty car. I do everything I do because of water, and so I'm so grateful for the folks in this community who appreciate how precious water is and what it means to us. All of us know we can't drink gas, we need water, and I'm especially grateful to Judy Asley and Nancy Bolden and the Bolden family for helping me get through a few really hard deadlines. I wanted to get my Forest Service objections in before the BLM deadline, and so I imposed an extra deadline on myself, and they came through to help me in a tremendous way. We're fighting the 401 permit over in Virginia, just like you are here in Virginia, but we have, as Peter said, we have a difficult circumstance over there. But we're going to keep fighting, just like everybody else. We know what our water means to us, and we need to stand up to fight for it. Just like the previous speaker said, it's up to us. We need to do all we can do. And just like Laurie said, we need to start preparing for how we are going to resist. What are our resistance plans? I'm the attorney who's going to say, yeah, I agree, that needs to happen. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you. We still have some work to do. The work that everybody has done has been tremendous. I think it's made a difference. We still don't have any decisions. We don't have a pipeline, and we're going to do our best to keep it that way. Yeah. Thank you.
So for hanging around here to the bitter end, I've got something for you. I don't have enough to give to everybody here today, and some people already have some of these. This is the Wilderness Society report of the 15 places throughout the country that's too wild to drill. That means pipeline infrastructure also. So if you have not, I just will do one per family. If you have not gotten one of these, and then when I get a second, I want you to raise your hand. On page 3, there was a mistake that that printer made, and we manually corrected to show the exact location of the MVP crossing the Forest Service, the Appalachian Trail. And on page 30, where they talked about the Appalachian Trail, although the pages talk about West Virginia, they forgot to put West Virginia at the top. So Nancy Bolden, who's running around here, made some labels that we put in there. So there's a couple. Don't leave these laying on your coffee table. Show them to your legislators and your county commissioners and your other people. It's a place that's too sacred to mess up with pipeline infrastructure. So if you haven't gotten one, raise your hand and I will give that's what I've got. He's married to Ashby's niece, Cindy Tilley, who I grew up with from Wayside. That's her son, Zen, on guitar. I don't know the guy in the back. He's new to the group. Zen, you can tell who they are. So this, a local Southern West Virginia, has ties to Monroe and Summers County. Bicycle.
my road. 'Cause you were the same to me on your knees. Thousand other boys could never reach you. How could I have been the one? I saw the world spinning.